Mr. Harrigan's Phone is now exclusive on Netflix and you can stream it whenever you want to. This is the latest in a long line of Stephen King adaptations into the cinematic realm. And this was written and directed by John Lee Hancock, who is quietly becoming one of the most skilled filmmakers working right now. And here we follow a young man named Craig, played by Jaeden Martell, who befriends the elderly billionaire John Harrigan, played by the one and only Donald Sutherland. One year for Christmas, while Craig is in high school, he gifts Mr. Harrigan a mobile phone for his mentorship. And Mr. Harrigan has no idea how to use this thing. So Craig is teaching him how to use it here and there, and Mr. Harrigan becomes fascinated by it. But suddenly, out of the blue, Mr. Harrigan tragically passes away, and Craig discovers that he can seemingly communicate with Mr. Harrigan from beyond the grave. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I really adore Stephen King. He's one of my favorite authors, if not my all-time favorite author. He really knows how to craft a suspenseful thriller. And John Lee Hancock, I think, knows how to create a good film. He made this one, The Blind Side, which, I get it, a lot of people have some things to say about it nowadays. But as someone who is on the gridiron all the way through middle school, I can confidently say that I was very inspired by this story, and I think Hancock did a good job directing it. My favorite movie of his, though, is this one, easily. Saving Mr. Banks. Let me just say, if you've never seen this film, what the heck are you still doing here? But that's not to say all of his movies have been great. He made a little movie called The Little Things a little over a year ago, which, I reviewed that already on the channel, and just to keep it simple, it f***ing sucked. So naturally, going into Mr. Harrigan's Phone, I was skeptical, but I was optimistic that John Lee Hancock could really turn his trajectory around. And Stephen King is attached to this project as an executive producer. And honestly, if he's attached to one of his projects that was adapted, chances are he's gonna think it's good. Unless, you know, it's The Shining, which he has gone on record saying that he hates. And here it sits, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. But I digress. I think Mr. Harrigan's Phone is really going to slip under a lot of people's radars. I think that's mainly because it's going straight to streaming. It's on Netflix. It's not going into movie theaters. And critical reception so far has been lukewarm at best. And I'm sitting here today saying, I don't get it. I found myself super invested in Mr. Harrigan's Phone, if I'm being quite honest, because I think it has a lot to say about how we adapt with technology, especially how it's evolved since the early 2000s when we actually kick off this story. And Donald Sutherland does have a lot of really ominous monologues that we are kind of wedded to our technology. Not to say this about everybody, but I feel like all of us have a mobile phone at this point in 2022. And I don't want to get too deep into spoilers or anything, but there's a point where he is lambasting this. He's basically like Nostradamus. He's predicting the future, that we're all just going to be transfixed by our technology. And lo and behold, here I sit recording in a nice little studio here, and I'm obsessed with technology myself. And, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm insulted by it, because technology is evolving constantly, and it will continue to evolve throughout all of our lifetimes. But the way it's written and the way it's directed and the way this whole message is presented is honestly very haunting. And this movie does have a lot of really excellent directing moments, as you would expect with John Lee Hancock's name on it. Aesthetically speaking, this movie does remind me a lot of The Blind Side. And John Schwartzman is a frequent collaborator with John Lee Hancock himself. He also did Saving Mr. Banks and The Founder not too long ago. And I think he has a really fantastic way of presenting these very realistic scenarios, almost dreamlike in a sense. Even though there are some nightmarish scenarios going on here, it all looks really, really great. Now I gotta talk about Donald Sutherland, because at 87 years old, this guy has still got it. I think he's the best he's been in years in this movie. He just wields so much power, especially just when he's sitting down in his lush mansion. I feel like this is almost the more welcoming version of President Snow from the Hunger Games. There's a lot of similar powerful traits of President Snow that he carries over to this character here, Mr. Harrigan. And there's just something about him that even though he can be a grump at times, there's just something very endearing that draws not just us, but Jaeden Martell's character to him as well. Who I gotta mention as well, Jaeden Martell is no stranger to the Stephen King world after appearing in both It movies. And this kid has grown so much as a performer since I first saw him in 2017 as that little stutterer himself. He carries this movie pretty much on his shoulders emotionally, and he is certainly up for the task. Jaeden Martell, my friend, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing wonders for your career. I can't wait to see what else you do. Honestly, it's gonna sound like I'm not complaining a whole lot about Mr. Harrigan's Phone because I really enjoyed it. I was emotionally invested in the story. I really feel like this is going to be one of the more underrated movies of 2022. But it's not a perfect movie. I definitely see where people are having their problems with it. My main issue with Mr. Harrigan's Phone is actually in the editing. Now granted, this is a short story of Stephen King's that I am not ultimately familiar with, so that may be why this movie continuously was able to surprise me as much as it was. But there's a lot of points where this timeline can get really jump heavy. Like the movie will start in the present, it'll jump all the way back to the year 2003, and then it'll fast forward like 10 years or so after that. I mean, there's some nifty little editing moments in the cinematography where a young Craig turns into Jaeden Martell reading Crime and Punishment. But I don't know, there were points where I got used to the timeline. I really did. But there was a point where I feel like it was a little bit too jarring, jumping multiple years ahead in the timeline after something completely drastic was going on. And heck, maybe the short story is the same way, but you know, that was my big issue with it. I really don't understand the hate behind this movie, and I'm kind of concerned that it may be because hardcore scary movie fans were expecting multitudes of jump scares. I counted all but one little jump scare in there, and John Lee Hancock, I think, handles it masterfully. Don't expect to go in here with a Stephen King haunted house-like extravaganza that it was. If I were you, I would go into Mr. Harrigan's Phone expecting a full-on psychological family drama, which is honestly where I think sneakily the scary genre actually excels. And if you like movies like that, you're really gonna dig Mr. Harrigan's Phone like I did. I'm gonna give it an A-. Don't let this one pass you by, guys. I think you guys will really enjoy it. Let me know what you thought of Mr. Harrigan's Phone down in the comment section below. And sound off in the comments. Let me know what's your favorite Stephen King adaptation. And just for fun, what is your least favorite Stephen King movie adaptation ever? I know Stephen King himself has said The Shining is absolutely terrible, but, you know, agree to disagree. That's what's fun about movies, guys. We can all have different opinions. There's no one correct option here. So, getting to interact with you guys and hearing your guys' takes makes things all the more fun for me. And hey, if you're a new viewer, do consider smashing that subscribe button and that notification bell right next door. That way you don't miss a second more of the action. And do me a favor and smash that like button on your way out. This is a tremendous help, not just for the benefit of the channel, but for all of us in continuing to grow as a community. Stay tuned for more exciting content hitting my channel very soon. I'm hoping to catch Amsterdam within these next couple of days, so I appreciate your patience in advance. And I will be putting out my Sinister review to continue my Halloween special very soon. Guys, clearly a lot to look forward to shortly. Y'all are the best. Thank you all so very much again for your support. Guys, I'm still continuously floored, day by day. With all that being said, Back Talk, commence!